In 1996, a massive environmental crisis unfolded in northwestern Costa Rica. Inside the strictly protected Guanacaste National Park, a private corporation dumped over 12,000 metric tons of thick, rotting waste. We are talking about more than 1,000 truckloads of industrial byproduct trashing a 3-hectare zone. Immediately, a brutal backlash exploded. Furious locals protested the toxic stench. Corporate rivals filed lawsuits, and by 1998, the Supreme Court stepped in to shut the entire project down. The dump site was sealed and abandoned under total public disgrace. For over 15 years, the world moved on, leaving this scar to rot in absolute isolation. Everyone was certain this ecosystem was dead forever, but deep beneath that decaying graveyard, an invisible biological timer had just started ticking. To truly understand how this crisis escalated, we have to look at the landscape before the chaos began. In northwestern Costa Rica, the Guanacaste Conservation Area, or ACG, is celebrated today for its rich biodiversity, but decades ago, large swaths of this paradise were completely flatlining. For generations, the land had been cleared and heavily overgrazed by thousands of cattle. The constant trampling of heavy hooves squeezed the oxygen straight out of the earth, packing the soil tightly until it became as hard as concrete. The native tropical dry forest vanished, replaced by a barren, sun-bleached wasteland. The real problem was that healing a broken landscape like this is an absolute financial trap. Standard conservation methods rely on a very clean, organized playbook. You buy expensive tree seedlings, transport thousands of gallons of water, and dump tons of costly synthetic fertilizers on a massive scale. This is completely impractical. It can easily cost thousands of dollars just to rehabilitate a tiny patch of land. Worse, an aggressive enemy had taken over the territory. Invasive African grass carpeted the fields, growing so thick and fast that it choked out any native seeds trying to break through. The ecosystem was locked in a dead loop, and conventional science had no affordable way out. That is when two prominent ecologists from the University of Pennsylvania entered the scene. Daniel Jansen and Winnie Hallwachs had spent years studying the region, and they realized something critical. You cannot fix a total system collapse with gentle, incremental care. If you want to break a dead ecosystem out of its frozen state, if you do not use a magnifying glass, you use a sledgehammer. They knew they needed a massive, overwhelming biological shock to disrupt the invasive grass and jumpstart the soil. But to do that on a large scale, they needed an infinite supply of organic material, and they needed it to cost absolutely nothing. The perfect variable arrived in the form of industrial waste. Just outside the park boundaries, a major commercial fruit company called Del Oro SA began processing thousands of oranges every single day. Making mass-market fruit juice produces an astronomical amount of leftover garbage. The company was drowning in mountainous piles of wet maceration, heavy peels, and acidic pulp. Disposing of this material in standard landfills was costing them a fortune in hauling fees and environmental taxes. Del Oro had an industrial waste problem, while the national park had a dead soil problem. In 1996, Jansen and Hallwachs brokered an unprecedented, highly controversial agreement. They allowed Del Oro SA to bypass the traditional dumping grounds and pour their industrial waste directly onto a 3-hectare strip of ruined pasture deep inside the protected reserve. Over the course of just 12 months, convoys of heavy trucks dumped 12,000 metric tons of raw, sticky, rotting orange waste onto the dead earth. To any observer, it looked like sheer madness. It looked like a multi-million-dollar corporation was using a pristine national park as an illegal landfill. But in reality, it was a radical biological experiment designed to push a dying system past its ecological threshold. But putting a radical idea into practice is never clean. Almost immediately, the tropical heat triggered a massive, chaotic chain reaction inside the 3-hectare plot. The 12,000 tons of orange peels began to ferment rapidly, releasing a sharp, overpowering acidic stench that carried for miles on the wind. Millions of flies and swarms of insects descended on the site, turning the bright orange mounds into a buzzing, rotting carpet. For the local communities and farmers living nearby, this did not look like cutting-edge science. It looked like an environmental nightmare. Panic quickly spread as people worried that the acidic runoff would seep into the soil and permanently contaminate the local groundwater supply, bringing diseases with it. The initial hope of a clean ecological miracle dissolved into a very messy, a very public reality. However, the fiercest backlash did not come from worried neighbors or cautious conservationists. It emerged from a much more calculated place, not far away. A massive juice corporation called Tico Fruit was watching the entire experiment unfold, and they were furious. But it was not out of concern for the park. It was pure business. You see, Del Oro SA had found a brilliant loophole. They were getting rid of thousands of tons of industrial waste completely free of charge, all while gaining glowing public press for their green donation to the national park. Tico Fruit enjoyed none of these advantages. Realizing their biggest competitor had secured a massive financial and marketing edge, Tico Fruit decided to weaponize the system. They hired teams of attorneys and used Costa Rica's incredibly strict environmental protection laws as a tactical blade. They filed a formal lawsuit, loudly accusing Del Oro SA of defiling a protected national ecosystem and violating strict bureaucratic regulations under the guise of philanthropy. The corporate strategy worked flawlessly. Media attention exploded, and the quiet biological experiment was suddenly dragged into the center of a national political firestorm. Regulatory agencies faced immense pressure to act. By 1998, just a short time after the dumping began, the legal battle escalated all the way to the Supreme Court of Costa Rica. The judges looked at the rigid paperwork, not the long-term biological potential. They ruled strictly in favor of Tico Fruit and ordered Del Oro SA to stop the project immediately. Just like that, the experiment was dead. The convoys of trucks stopped coming, and the site was instantly cut off. There were no follow-up studies, no protective fences, and absolutely no scientific monitoring. The world quickly moved on, dismissing the entire project as a highly embarrassing, failed publicity stunt tucked away in a forgotten corner of the park. The rotting mountains were left entirely at the mercy of the elements, seemingly condemned as a monument to human arrogance. To understand why this project faded into the shadows, we have to look at a fundamental flaw in human psychology. Humans are deeply obsessed with order. We like our environmental conservation neat, tidy, and arranged in clean, manicured rows. When we see rot, decomposition, and swarms of insects, our immediate instinct is to label it a failure. But nature does not operate by human rules of cleanliness. In the biological world, decay is the ultimate engine of rebirth. By forcing human intervention completely out of the frame, the court unknowingly created the ultimate sanctuary. They left the system entirely alone. What followed was a period of absolute, unmonitored oblivion. From 1998 all the way to 2013, the site fell completely off the radar. No industrial trucks ever returned to dump another peel. No scientific cameras were set up, and the plot was entirely erased from priority research lists. For 15 long years, the 3-hectare zone was swallowed by total silence. The world simply treated it as a toxic mistake best left forgotten. It became a dead scar on the map. But an ecosystem left entirely to itself behaves in ways science cannot always predict. In 2013, a graduate student from Princeton University named Timothy Truer was digging through old, obscure academic archives. He was researching tropical forest recovery when he stumbled upon a brief, forgotten note. It was written in an old field paper by Daniel Jansen. The text casually mentioned the aborted orange peel experiment, adding that no one had ever gone back to check on the site. That tiny detail changed everything. Truer wondered what a landscape looked like after being choked by 12,000 tons of acidic industrial waste and left for over a decade. In 2013, he packed his gear and flew to Costa Rica to track down the exact coordinates of the old dumping ground. He was not looking for a success story. Based on conventional science, Truer fully expected to find a heavily degraded wasteland ruined by severe acid runoff. He was entering the wilderness like a detective uncovering a cold case, ready to document the permanent damage left behind. When Timothy Truer and his team finally reached the exact coordinates in 2013, they were completely disoriented. The original landmarks, the perimeter signs, and the exposed, sun-baked earth had vanished entirely. For a moment, they genuinely believed they had made a mathematical error or taken a wrong turn in the wilderness. They were looking for a toxic place, a historic environmental crime scene stained by industrial waste, but there was no trash, no barren soil, and absolutely no lingering stench of acid. Instead, they found themselves standing in front of an impenetrable wall of raw, hyperdense jungle, where a scorched pasture once lay. Massive canopy trees now towered over the landscape. The forest floor was lush, vibrant, and exploding with activity. Insects buzzed through the humid air, birds nested in the high branches, and small mammals moved through the dense undergrowth. It looked like an ancient, undisturbed ecosystem. The destructive scar left by 12,000 tons of industrial refuse had been completely swallowed by life. To find out what actually happened beneath the surface, Truer launched a rigorous, multi-year comparative study. He mapped out the exact borders of the old orange peel dump and placed it side by side with an untreated control plot right next to it. The raw data stunned the scientific community. In 2017, Truer and his team published their verified findings in the prestigious journal Restoration Ecology. The numbers completely shattered all expectations. The zone treated with the industrial waste showed a massive 176% increase in above-ground biomass compared to the adjacent field. In plain terms, the area produced nearly 3 times the total volume of trees, woody shrubs, and ground vegetation. Soil core samples revealed that the deep earth was completely revitalized, holding vastly superior levels of critical nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and carbon. And the most mind-blowing part of the data was the cost. This staggering threefold explosion of life happened over a 16-year period with absolutely zero human maintenance, zero artificial planting, and zero irrigation. But how did a pile of factory garbage outperform millions of dollars in conventional conservation technology? The answer lies in a hidden variable that completely rewrites our understanding of ecological restoration. For years, people assumed the orange peels simply acted as a massive dose of standard fertilizer, but that was a fundamental misunderstanding of the system. The true power of the orange peels was not chemical, it was mechanical. When those thousands of truckloads were dropped onto the pasture, they formed a thick, heavy, a suffocating blanket of organic matter across the 3-hectare plot. This heavy seal did something conventional tools could never achieve. It completely cut off sunlight and oxygen from the aggressive, invasive African grass that had held the land hostage for decades. The dominant grass was literally smothered to death on a massive scale, completely breaking its monopoly over the territory. As the invasive grass died off, and the crushing weight of the orange peels slowly fermented and broke down into a rich, hyper-fertile compost layer, this biological breakdown dissolved the concrete hard, compacted earth, turning it into loose, spongy soil, ready to receive life. With the competitive grass erased, the land became a clean slate. Wild animals and migrating birds were drawn to the decomposing mounds, dropping thousands of native forest seeds across the area. Surrounded by optimal levels of nitrogen and moisture, these native seeds exploded into growth, rebuilding a complex tropical forest entirely from scratch. The world had condemned the project as an illegal dump, but nature used it as a tactical weapon to liberate itself. The transformation in Costa Rica reveals a fundamental rule of systems biology, introducing what scientists call an ecological threshold jump. Nature does not recover in a slow, predictable, straight line. If an ecosystem has completely flatlined, a tiny dose of fertilizer or planting a handful of trees does absolutely nothing because the degraded state is simply too dominant. To force a broken system to snap out of its frozen balance, you must introduce an overwhelming, concentrated wave of biomass all at once. You have to literally shock the environment into a new evolutionary path. But this is not a magical cure-all that can be blindly copied anywhere. There are very strict biological boundaries to this equation. If you dump too much citrus waste, or if the local climate lacks the right moisture, the chemical balance collapses completely. The ground becomes far too acidic, which entirely wipes out the delicate underground microbial network and paralyzes plant growth instead of helping it. It requires precise calculation of soil chemistry, regional rainfall, and application thickness to work safely. Yet, when you respect these boundaries, This systematic formula can be replicated across the globe with entirely different types of organic materials. Look at what followed in 2021. A research team from the University of Hawaii decided to test this exact threshold theory on a completely different, degraded landscape. Instead of orange peels, they utilized coffee pulp, a massive industrial byproduct of the global coffee trade that usually rots in massive piles and pollutes local environments. They blanketed a heavily degraded tropical pasture with a thick, suffocating layer of this discarded coffee waste. The results were almost identical to the miracle in Costa Rica. Within just 2 short years, the tree cover on the treated zone exploded to 80%, compared to a miserable 20% in the untreated control area. The aggressive, invasive grasses completely suffocated and died off. The soil nutrients surged across the board, and native tree saplings shot up to heights of 15 feet in record time. This proves that what happened to those orange peels was not a random stroke of luck. It was a demonstration of a predictable, scalable law of nature. These experiments point toward a massive paradigm shift for the future of our planet. Right now, governments and global environmental agencies are under immense pressure to find expensive, high-tech ways to trap carbon and restore lost forests. At the exact same time, in the global food and agricultural industries generate mountains of heavy organic waste every single year, most of which is burned or buried at an immense financial cost. We have been looking at this entire equation completely upside down. This is not a waste disposal crisis. It is a global restoration toolkit. By reimagining agricultural byproducts not as garbage to get rid of, but as tactical keys to unlock dead land, we open the door to highly affordable, low-tech carbon sequestration on a planetary scale. It shows us that nature does not need an expensive human engineering project to recover. It just needs a heavy, calculated nudge to trigger a massive chain reaction of life. And it ultimately leaves us with one haunting question. If a pile of discarded factory scraps holds the power to grow a thriving forest completely for free, what else are we wasting?